everyone, it's Kelly here. Welcome to my channel if this is your first time. Welcome back if you've been before. Lovely to have you either way. On this channel we talk books. Today I am bringing to you my kind of late, sorry about that, version of the Mid Year Freakout Tag, which you will have seen lots of other booktubers recording their videos and uploading them recently. So I am recording mine a bit later than I had anticipated, but that's okay. We're here now. Let's get into it. I'm excited. These are great, because it does kind of give you an opportunity to reflect on where you are and to think about what you want to get done in the remainder of the year. So it's good to sort of have a check-in and sort of see where you're up to. So I'm going to start with question number 1, a very good place to start, and that is, what is the best book you have read so far this year? I had to think about this one a little bit, and I would say there's a few books that I have really enjoyed, but I think if pressed, I would choose Western Lane by Chetna Maroo. This is a book I read earlier in the year, and it is and this will come up again in another question later on, it's the only book that has made me cry this year. So this is definitely, I think, the one that has really sat with me, that really made me feel things, that made me really glad to have read it and to have pushed through that sort of initial bit of the book where it was kind of a little bit dry is not the word, but like it didn't have that sort of emotional punch at the beginning, and then but that was so necessary for the emotional punch at the end. So yeah, loved Western Lane by Chetna Maroo. What is the best sequel you have read so far this year? I actually haven't read that many sequels, but even if I had, this would probably still be my answer, and that is The Tea Dragon Tapestry by Kay O'Neill. This is part of the Tea Dragon Society series, and this is, I believe, the final one in the trilogy. I think it's only a trilogy. Maybe there's more to come, I don't know, but at least of what is out now. I had been waiting for this one to come out in paperback because all of the other editions that I had bought were in paperback, and I wanted to have a consistent collection. So I waited till this came out in paperback, and I was not disappointed by the story. It was beautiful. I love this series. If you haven't ever checked this out, it's very cozy, it's very wholesome, and it definitely gives you the sort of like heart stuff that you're looking for, if that's your kind of vibe. Okay, what is a new release you haven't read yet but want to? There's a few, but I'm only going to share one, and that is Safe Haven by Shankari Chandran. This is, I last year read Try Time at Cinnamon Gardens, which was her Miles Franklin winning book last year. I loved it. I'm very keen to read this one. I just haven't yet, so I need to get to it. That is definitely something I want to do by the end of the year. Number 4 is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? I'm not really one to look forward in the sense of like seeking out books that are coming out in the second half of the year. However, I pre-ordered this book so fast. I have to give it as my answer. So it is Comes the Night by Isobelle Carmody, and it comes out on October 29th, I believe. So looking out for it then. Isobelle Carmody is an author who I have loved reading for a long time. And I guess, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if you'd said who's your favourite author, that was always my immediate answer, was Isobelle Carmody. Now, I have not read an Isobelle Carmody book for the last couple of years, so I can't say that for sure now. However, I'm very excited that a new book is coming from her, because I love her writing, I love her world building, and there's a nostalgia element to it because I've been reading her books for a long time. So very, very excited for Comes the Night to come out in October. Also, the cover of it looks beautiful, so very excited to have another beautiful book in my collection. From excitement to disappointment, the next question is, what was your most disappointing book so far? And for me, that has to be Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy. Don't come at me if you loved this book, because I know a lot of people did, but it just really, I guess the hype of the book and the fact that so many people loved it meant that I was super disappointed when I didn't love it. So yeah, unfortunately for me, it was Soldier Sailor. What was your biggest surprising book so far? This one really did surprise me, and for the opposite reason, because a lot of people had been saying how much they didn't like this book. So when I really liked it, I was quite surprised. And that is Restless, Dolly, Maunder by Kate Grenville. I read this one. It was nominated, shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction this year. And a lot of people were very salty that it had made the shortlist. And I guess part of that is because maybe one of the ones that you had enjoyed didn't make it to the shortlist, and you're like, why did this one? Because a lot of people didn't like it. But as I read this one on the audiobook, I had started to read it, I think it was an ebook version. I'd started to read the ebook and I wasn't really getting into it as an ebook. But when I got the audiobook, it really changed things for me, because I guess I sort of able to get through those initial chapters where things are kind of being set up, which I think was possibly where a lot of people were lost on this book. But then as things went on, I really connected with this character, and I thought, you know, I was starting to deeply understand her, which I guess was Kate Grenville's point in because it's based on her grandmother, who she didn't have the best relationship with, but looking back, trying to understand her as a person. And I felt she achieved that really well. So, very surprising book for me, Restless, Dolly, Maunder. Who is your new favourite author, debut or new to you? So I've read quite a few authors who are new to me, and I believe this first one I'm going to share is a debut author. I know that she also writes for Country Living magazine in Australia, so Australian Country Style. Anyway, one of the magazines about the country. She writes a column for, which I found out later. But I think in terms of a book, this may be her debut, and that is Graft by Maggie MacKellar. I read this one because it was nominated for the Stella Prize. It didn't make the shortlist, and I was salty about that because I thought it was so beautiful. And I really loved her writing in this, very evocative. I recommended it to my mum. My mum loved it as well. She took it with her on a trip around Tasmania where this is set. And it was, the perfect pairing for the trip. So, Maggie MacKellar, definitely an author to look out for. The other one I don't have a copy of, and that is Katherine Brabon, who wrote Body Friend. I will get myself a copy of it, but I just don't have it yet. That was a book that I also read for the Stella Prize this year, and I really was blown away by her writing. So she's definitely not a debut author, but it was my first introduction to her as an author. So I really enjoyed Body Friend, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. All right, moving on to question number 8. And then this is the one that always gets people. Who is your new fictional crush? Now, I don't read a lot of romance or anything like that, so I don't necessarily think about characters in that way when I'm not reading a romance. However, if pressed, I have chosen Sir Kay from Perilous Times, a book that I read very early on this year. He is just, he's something else. Like, he's definitely, I guess part of the attraction to him is that he's a very moral character, and that he is really somebody who embodies his values, and that's very attractive to me. To be that, to embody your values in that way. And then also he just sort of gives off vibes, like he gives off the kind of guy that I would be attracted to kind of vibes. So definitely Sir Kay is going to be my choice for my newest fictional crush. Then, who is your newest favourite character? I had to think about this one as well. There were a few different options, but I've gone with Mosscap from Assam for the Wild, built by Becky Chambers. Mosscap is the robot in this book, and he's delightful. He's a delightful robot, so I loved him as a character as well. Like, he just seems to be really genuine and like curious, and yeah, the kind of character I really like. Okay, we're getting to the pointy end now. What books made you cry? Now, I've already told you the answer to this one. Ooh, let me get it off my pile. And that is Western Lane. Literally the only book that has made me cry this year is Western Lane by Chetna Maroo. So, love it. Love it. I love to cry. I don't love to cry, but I love to feel emotionally impacted by a book in that way. What is one book that made you happy? And that is Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. I'm very excited to keep reading this series. Obviously, I've heard good things about it, but I really enjoyed the first one, and I need to now move on and read the next ones as well, which maybe I will do soon. We'll see. But yeah, I really loved this. It was very wholesome and made me feel happy and made me feel good. And then, what is the most beautiful book you bought or received this year? This was a tricky one, because there are a lot of really beautiful books that I have bought or received, and this may be a controversial choice, but I'm going to go with this one, which is The Body Country by Susie Anderson. Although, I don't know if you can see this down the bottom, this is not a sticker. That is printed on the book, and that annoys me because it wrecks the cover a little bit. But that aside, I just think the design of this is really beautiful, and I really love it. I have not yet read this. It's a poetry collection by Susie Anderson, and I am excited for it. It's been sitting on my TBR cart, waiting to be picked up. But I think it is one of the most beautiful books that I have purchased this year. Okay, moving these aside now. We're into the more reflective part of the not the reflective part, sorry. We're now into the more planning side of things because we're now looking at what books I need to read by the end of the year. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to check in on my goals. So my overall number reading goal was 52 books, and I have currently, as of towards the end of July, read 41 books. So I'm ahead of my target. I don't feel, well, yeah, I don't, unless circumstances happen that are outside of my control, that stop me from reading, I feel pretty confident that I'm going to get to my numerical goal of 52 books, and probably exceed it. So that's a good thing. Then looking at my challenges that I have set for myself. So let's start with the Sirens reading challenge, which is the challenge I'm hosting this year. I am exactly where I need to be at the middle of the year because I've done 4 out of the 8 prompts. So I am halfway through, which is great. I feel pretty confident that we can get to the 8 by the end of the year. So I still need to do the prompts for Library Lorelei, Bookshop Babe, Digital Delilah, and Fresh Femme Fatale. So those are my 4 that I'm still going to be looking out for. Then I also gave myself the challenge of 24 in 24, where I went through my shelves at the end of last year and I picked out 24 books that I already own that I am really excited for and really hope to read soon. So kind of my physical TBR priorities, I guess you could say. Now, I am a little bit behind on this one. Actually, I'm quite a bit behind on this one. So obviously there are 24 books and I've only read 7 of them at the halfway point of the year. So I definitely need to get a wriggle on these books because otherwise I'm not going to get anywhere near 24 by the end of the year. And I really, really do. I think the tricky thing in the first half of the year is that a lot of the prize long lists come out in the first half of the year. So I'm always excited to be reading those books. So I'm looking at at those rather than specifically the ones that I've picked out from my owned books, TBR. So yeah, hopefully the second half of the year where we have less prize lists coming out, I'll be able to focus a little bit more on getting these books done. Then I also was hoping to be able to read through the Stella Prize long list and the Miles Franklin Prize long list as well. Two big literary awards here in Australia. So for the Stella Prize, I'm actually doing pretty well. So there were 12 books on that list, and I have currently finished reading 8 of them and DNF'd 1 of them. So I'm 3/4 of the way through that list, basically, so I've only got 3 to go. The Miles Franklin I'm a little bit behind on, and I've been in a bit of a reading slump this month, and that has not helped things, but I've currently only read 3 of the 10. So I definitely need to get a little move on there, especially because the winner is going to be announced, I think, on the 1st of August, if I'm not mistaken, or around that time anyway. So I definitely need to get a wriggle on reading those books. If my caveat to that is, if I don't feel like I want to read all 10, I do want to read the long listed books. And in which case I've read 2 of those. 2 of the books I've read from that list, I think, I would need to check that. Bear with me for a moment while I skip back to my Stella Prize page in my document. Sorry, my Miles Franklin page. Okay, so I have currently read, so I've read 2 of the shortlisted books. So I still would need to read Only Sound Remains, Wall, Annam, and I have started The Belle of the World. So technically I could get away with just reading 4 and still be relatively pleased that I have met the target there. Okay, so those are my check-ins. I still have lots of things I want to do before the end of the year. As I said, I'm in a bit of a slump at the moment, so I really need something to get me out of it. So maybe I should go back to the Heartstopper and read the next one there, because that was something that really excited me, so maybe that will help me to get out of my slump a little bit. Yeah, we'll see. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you have thoughts on any of the books that I've mentioned in this video. I would love to see your video if you've made one with a mid-year freakout tag, so please let me know about that down in the comments, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye!